So, everyone, we are now joined by Deven, Mantz, and Adam Schmitt. They are union workers with the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees, which was one of the unions that is or was up until a few hours ago threatening to strike before Congress intervened and the Senate voted 80-15, a good old bipartisan vote, to crush this potential labor action. So, guys, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but thank you so much for making the time for us this evening.
Yeah, thank you guys on tonight. It's been a complicated, tough, and busy day. I'm sure Adam feels the same way. Just watching them on C-SPAN has been really crazy.
Thanks for having us. A lot of people don't realize we're actually out in the field, so it's a lot harder to follow what's going on the Hill than people actually tend to realize.
Yeah. You guys were saying how, you couldn't really keep track of what was going on today because you guys were working. So why don't you let us and our audience know what a day's work looks like for you guys, what the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees does, what a typical day's work is, why you need the sick leave, why you were pushing for this. Give us a sense of what you guys do every day to help keep the country moving.
Yeah, thanks. I'll go first. That's all right, Adam. As you said, we're Brotherhood of Maintenance Away. We're a division of the Teamsters of the on the railroad side of things. And so what we do is we construct the railroad track. We build buildings. We build the bridges that the railroads run on. So we do it all. Everything down below they run on. That means when things break, we have to go out there and fix them. So that's our day. And over the last 6 years or so, it's turned into just putting out fires, not literally all the time sometimes. But what I mean by that is it's not just maintenance work, preventative maintenance. A lot of it's things breaking and literally trains are stopping. So we have to run out there as quick as possible, which is why there was another guy who was going to be on here tonight. And thankfully Adam was free, but he got called back to work tonight because there's some issues going on at work. So go ahead, Adam. What do you think? Oh, go ahead, Russell. You.
Yeah. Now you're saying that's a change. That's a change from the job you used to do. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, workforce reductions. We just don't have enough people to keep up with the maintenance that we've, that's what you used to do. And especially all the old timers have told us all about it. I've only been out here for about 11 years, but I've seen a major drastic change in just that much time, that it goes from just maintenance and whether it's welding or grinding or it's replacing rails before they break, not after they break. Replacing ties, all kinds of different things, and making sure that the structure is kept up. And now it's impossible. You can't.
Wow. So isn't that a danger to the trains and to the public if everything's being done that way?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I'll digress a little bit. Both of us belong to the BMWED, but we do work for two separate railroads, but both under MWNS, Maintenance of Way and Structures. And I like to keep it simple and just say it's essentially heavy construction, railroad construction, whether you're surfacing the track, installing railroad ties, or installing railroad rail, but you mix in with maintaining these bridge railroad grade crossings. It's pretty much construction. I like to say it's a moving assembly line. We're in 22 different states, roughly 20,000 plus track miles in those 20 different states. And it's heavy construction, moving assembly line, with anywhere from 20 member crews all the way up to 85 plus member crews.
Yeah, Adam, you're in Pennsylvania, and Deven, you are in North Dakota. So you guys are coming at us from two different parts of the country. That work you described seems awfully hard to do if you're sick, I would think. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you could just kind of come in and drag yourself through it, but I guess you have to if you want to get paid, right? And that was one of the points that you guys were trying to negotiate into the contract. So let's go back to September when an initial railroad strike was averted. And let's just, if you guys want to speak to what the climate was back then, how you guys reached this tentative deal, and then how that tentative deal, after a certain date on the calendar called November 8th, when the Democrats needed people to come vote for them, how after that date, this tentative deal became not so tentative anymore.
Yeah, I'll start that out. So we work under the Railway Labor Act. It's a little bit different than the National Labor Relations Act. Most people work under that. And the Railway Labor Act actually precedes the National Labor Relations Act. So it gets kind of confusing, but just to tie this up, we start our negotiations right when our contract ends, but it doesn't technically end because of the Railway Labor Act. So we're 3 years deep in this negotiation. So what happened was this summer, we finally said, we're done. We need you to self-help. And the Biden administration sent out a presidential emergency board, which is made up of 3 people that say, hey, look, this is fair. They're basically the arbitrator in the issue. Mm-hmm. But they're more the mediator because it's not binding and final at that point. So it goes to September, as you were speaking to Keaton, and we came to this tentative agreement because the presidential emergency board, in their words that they use, it just doesn't work for our contract agreement. It just doesn't. So the railroads and our union leadership had to come together for the tentative agreement. Just to make this really easy, we voted it down. That's what we did. We didn't like it. It doesn't solve all of our issues. Sure, it's great in some ways. We got some away from home expenses that we've been trying to get for 50 plus years, which is awesome. But
what are those? Can you go into a little bit of detail about those?
Yeah, sure. So most of our workforce travels. I've been fortunate to work at home for quite a while, but even me working at home is driving 2 hours that way or 2 hours that way because the railroad only goes that way or that way. But a majority of our workforce is traveling. And so we haven't really been keeping up with the meals, with the mileage, whatever it takes. And we're traveling thousands of miles every year. It's quite insane. We call it blood money because you make just a little bit from traveling, but not very much.
Right.
And so, we finally got this deal where we were starting to get the IRS rate of mileage. We were getting the CONUS rate for the meals, which is great. Like that's been what we should have been getting all along.
I'm shocked you weren't getting that. No, that's why I asked you to elaborate, because it's shocking. It's shocking you didn't have the paid sick leave, and then it's shocking to hear that you didn't have those expenses taken care of.
Yeah. So now you know why. Okay, so part of it was good, right? And then you look at the 22% pay increase over 5 years. Like, okay, that's not terrible, but we've had concessionary contract after concessionary contract. And back in the 90s, we gave up all kinds of pay raises for our better health care. And now we're going to start paying more for our health care. It never ends. And so, and even with these pay raises, does it keep up with inflation? No.
Not at this rate.
It doesn't. No, not because of what's going on right now, right? So here's where we're at. Adam, do you got something to add to that?
Yeah, as far as away from home expenses, I'll just break it down real quick. We like to be competitive with the truck driving industry, hauling over the road material. But to be honest, we make $34 every 100 miles. And they say the first 100 miles are on you.
That's insane.
And you get paid in 100-mile. You get paid in 100-mile increments. So if you drive 101 miles, you get the same pay as if you drive 199 miles. So, for example, what I'm in right now, I'm from Altoona, Pennsylvania. We're working in Buffalo, New York. We actually just missed the big storm, but we have 23 men that I work with, ranging from Buffalo, New York, all the way down to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You work a long day Thursday, anywhere between a 10 and 15-hour day. You turn around and then you drive from Buffalo, New York to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I think this is stuff that, whichever news channel you actually get your information from, you see people up on the Hill. And I know they've been ear to what we have going on here. But until you actually live it, I'm sure Deven can attest to this. You tell your friends, you tell your family, but until you're actually out there in the 56.5-foot gauge, it is a different world explaining it to someone than actually living it and doing it every day.
Well, look, Russell and I don't work nearly as hard as you guys, so we have more time to watch TV and monitor what these guys are saying. Nobody on TV is talking about any of this. None of it.
No.
None of it.
No.
They have no clue the reality of the kind of work that you guys do. Zero.
No.
And they're not willing to even inquire about it because that might, or not might, it would steer public sympathy your way.
Yeah, our legislative director, I was talking to him not long ago, and he was talking to a congressman, and they said, you guys get paid great. You guys have all these different benefits. And he goes, really? Well, I'll happily trade places with you if you want. Yeah. Right now. They're like, whoa. I mean, of course they don't want that, right? When you're in the belt, when you're in that area, and I understand it, right? When you're just living a whole different life, so you can't understand it. But that's what makes this so awkward and weird for Congress to be able to step in and to be able to just decide what we should and shouldn't have. That doesn't make any sense.
No, you have these. Look, I'm going to censor myself because I don't want to get you guys in any more trouble than you're already in. But
I'm telling you, I keep wanting to say things where I'm like, I better not say that.
Yeah, we don't want to. You guys are already on shaky enough ground, right? Given all this, so no. You got people who have the cushiest jobs in the world. Legislating away your guys' right to collectively bargain for a better deal for the work that you guys do, which is 1,000 times harder than what any of these people do. And so let's go now. Okay, so you guys signed that tentative deal. Your union voted it down. You say there were some good parts of it, but not nearly what you guys would need to be on board. You thought even the unions that signed on under the impression that this was a tentative deal and that you would have the ability to renegotiate it now. And you talk about a bait and switch, right? Now they're going to swoop in at the last minute and say, well, actually, no, we're going to take that right away from you. So talk about where you guys are at now and just what this has done to labor, broadly speaking.
Yes, I'll give credit where credit's due. Like, we had some really great staffers that were working with us in some congressional offices. Originally when, Sunday night, Biden had come out, or Monday, that Biden had come out and said that passed the deal, the tentative agreement, like you just said, had referred to, the one that we literally just voted down. They're going to sign a law and pass it. He was calling upon him. And then Pelosi came out and said, with no poison pills. And the poison pills was the sick leave. Like, that's literally what we were asking for.
It's just unbelievable.
It's crazy.
It's just Orwellian framing. No poison pills. Like, we're not going to make it worse than it already was. But the idea, the reason it was agreed to in the first place is because it was really to do the Democrats a favor, I think. We don't want to strike before November because we can't lose the midterms, right? Anyway, that's me. But yeah, no poison pill. It's my
dirty words. It's dirty words when we were, especially when, DeFazio was out with COVID on sick leave, and he said that too. And he was on our side, right? But he was out with sick leave. They obviously have some sort of sick leave. I don't know. They don't take a pay cut, do they? If they're out sick?
No. Yeah, no. They don't take. Anyway, I'm sorry. You had a flow going. I'm probably talking too much here. It's so hard to keep your mouth shut with this. I just can't believe. It's just unbelievable. It really is. It really is.
If Pelosi was short the railroads, you probably could have gotten this through.
Right.
Yeah.
Short stock.
Right. If she had had a short position on the railroads, she would have kept that sick leave in there probably.
That's funny.
Anyway, sorry. I'm talking too much. It's hard for me to contend because this is it's extraordinary. It's just an extraordinary story.
Yeah.
So anyway, no poison pills.
Whatever you want. Yeah. So no poison pills. So that whole thing kind of came up, and then we had. I started talking to some really great people out of Cori Bush's office and Jamal Bowman's office and Chuy Garcia's office. And so did our whole legislative department did. And their staffers are really the ones who got this going. And they like that night, they called me and said, hey, we're going to submit this. We're going to make a change. We're going to submit an amendment. And I was like, oh, cool. And a couple hours later, he calls me. He's like, did you hear the good news? Pelosi backed out. They basically like pushed her to say that or to come out with the amendment to it. So she was supporting it.
But ultimately, they pushed both bills through. They did what they did with the Build Back Better last year, which is they pushed both bills through to the Senate, and the Senate voted yes on the bad bill and no on the good bill.
Correct. Yep. And that's how the House had to do it procedurally. I guess I don't know all the details with it.
No, that's not how they. I mean, no.
They did it that way so that it wouldn't pass.
They did it so they could tell you guys they tried their best for you. That's really why they did it that way. That really, I mean, sorry.
But there was, I mean,
sorry to make
there was
worse,
some really
but
great people that actually were sticking up for us and tried to help us out. And it failed. It didn't work out. I'm not saying like everybody in the Democratic Party or especially in the GOP were on our side, but there were a few that were definitely on our side, and I saw it and felt it.
Well, when they're on your side and it looks like they might actually be able to get something done, I've heard that they bring them into a back room and show them pictures of their family and show that they know where they live, and then you change your vote very quickly. I think that might be what happened.
I mean, Bowman ended up voting yes on the bad bill to push.
Yeah, and so look, there was some controversy about that as well, but the way that the leadership did come out with it, Bowman didn't really have a choice. They had to vote yes in order to get the sick leave in there. And I mean, I was okay with it as long as it was the sick leave because it wasn't. I don't know. It gets really political and complicated.
Well, no one mini caucus within the caucus had the power to stop it. There was too much bipartisan support to break you guys' effort. I mean, but that's really what it was. There were too many Democrats and too many GOPers who were united in saying we need to avert a strike, period. Now, let's talk about your guys' threats to strike, because there are a lot of people who say, well, if you watch the media, they would say, well, a strike would derail this country right before Christmas. The economy would be devastated, right? Is that not the point of labor power, right? Don't you need that leverage in order for any of these efforts to be worth fighting at all? Don't you need to have that leverage? And now that they've taken it away, where does that leave you guys?
You go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, that's what's tough. In short, I'll piggyback off what Deven said there. There is a lot of people, although we didn't get ultimately what we wanted to get, our intention was to never strike, never be boots on the ground. But, I appreciate at least the first vote, 69-26, I believe, to not extend this another 60 days down the road. I believe Sullivan was up there, hitting on that, this works. But if you know what's going on in the industry, once this tentative agreement was voted down, there was no more discussions. There was no more meetings. I believe our president had said we had 2 meetings over the course of 2 months. They lasted about 20 minutes apiece. And all they did was go in and say, hey, when's this cooling off period going to end? So when you take away actual boots on the ground picketing, what leverage do we have? There's nothing we can do. So as much as maybe we want to put this behind us and we were so far out of date with our contract, we just turn around and we enter Section 6 notices here within the next 2 years. So we're going to be right back into it. We're going to be right back into bargaining. And how are we going to get any improvement whatsoever if the end of the line isn't to strike, if the end of the line is to just go here and just do what we went through today? So appreciate everyone's support we had today. And I can't reiterate enough that we do not want to strike whatsoever. We just want what's fair to the membership. We just want what we think is normal in today's society. We travel across the globe. Like you said, any given time you can call a production worker on any one of these Class 1 railroads, and they're driving, between 2 and 6 people in a 2-seat sedan. And they're driving 10 hours across the country. They're working in 115-degree heat in Texas. They're working in, 46 inches of snow in Buffalo to just come home, have time to wash their clothes, kiss their family, and go right back on the road. And for every person I can show you, we have roughly 25,000, 30,000 members, part of the BMWE. For every person in there who makes $126,000, I can show you 10 to 1 who make $40,000. So I don't want to call anybody out, but there's a lot of half-truths going around in that. And if you take away the only thing we have as far as leverage to move anywhere in improvement, you're just really shooting us in the foot, and there's nothing we can do to move past that.
Do you feel betrayed, particularly given that during the pandemic, there was so much talk about our love of the essential workers, right? We loved you guys, the essential workers. They're keeping America running through this tough time. And now when you need them, do you feel that they've stabbed you in the back?
Yeah, it was funny actually. During COVID, when everything was shutting down, the railroads got special permission so that we could keep traveling these thousands of miles, as Adam alluded to. So,
right, you didn't get any of that unemployment, right? The railroads didn't shut down. You weren't eligible. You worked right through all that, right?
Yep, and still do. I mean, look, I had Monday off, unpaid, because I had a sick kid, and that's just.
And it's unpaid. It's
unpaid. That's just what you do. You don't have any choice. And we're working people, right? Like we don't have days we can just take off randomly. Like, maybe, these corporate executives can take days off, they'll just make it up on their next $10,000 day, but we don't have those days. So it's more rough for us, but it is a betrayal. It is a betrayal that we hear that, we're essential workers. We, deserve more. We should have this. We heard it from a lot of the GOP during some of this legislation going on. But they were talking about, they're great, and we shouldn't get involved with their rail negotiations. But we are going to do that anyway.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. But then they do anyways, and some of them will help out with some of the sick leave, and that was great, but some of them won't, and it's defeating, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know you guys are careful not to be too charged about politicians and parties or things like that, but Biden did promise to be the most pro-labor president, in American history, which is just laughable at this point. I mean, this is one of the most out in the open slaps in the faces to labor. And just so you know, I know you guys don't know us very well. We don't know you guys very well. We are an independent show. We are certainly not right wing here. So we don't have an agenda against Joe Biden, at least not from that point of view. But it's just extraordinary because what a lot of people don't know is that Congress could have passed a bill including your sick leave. They didn't have to impose these terms. They could have imposed any terms they wanted. So if Mr. Pro-Labor Union Joe wanted to intervene to stop a strike, he could have done so in a way that helped you guys get what you need. Instead, it's very, very obvious, given both what has come out of his mouth for the past few days and the votes that were just cast on the floor, that their priorities were to side with management here.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Although me and Deven don't work next to each other, we have been in the same place a handful of times over the years together. And we definitely disagree on some things politically, and we definitely have a difference of opinion. But I think when you can get together, you can broaden your horizons. And at the end of the day, like I said, if you're a railroader, you know what we go through. So regardless, if you have a family, if you don't, if you're blue or if you're red, we can definitely spot the difference and, have a bunch of similarities to move forward. But, in everything I've watched over the course of the last few days, Amtrak Joe or Joey Lunchbox, as I heard somebody call him today, I appreciate what he was doing to say, he's going to come down and, he's the, labor first, union president. He said he got that name from labor, and we appreciate that. But as easy as he sent this to the House and to the Senate, to get us back to work and avert a strike, he could have also done that with what we believe to be the proper sick days.
He got that name from the union like he was on the front lines of civil rights. Okay, I want to know what union gave him this designation, because that sounds to me like bullshit. That sounds to me like he started running around calling himself Union Joe, saying, "Oh, look, all the unions call me Union Joe." And,
it's hard. So, I mean, he's from Scranton, so people are like, "Well, he's got to be at least somewhat true, right?"
I mean, to be fair, I try to play a good cop, bad cop, but he came out on Monday, whatever it was, and that was a slap in the face. There's no doubt about that, right? Everybody in rail labor saw that as a slap in the face, and we all feel that as well. If you look at some of his cabinet positions that he's put people in, Marty Walsh, who was supposed to also be on our side, right? And again, I have the same exact feeling about him, right? He was like building trades president in Boston, and then the mayor of Boston, and then now he's labor secretary. And what did we get? So it's very frustrating to hear that, as you had referred to as Union Joe, and then you come out with a slap in the face like this. So I agree with you. It's rough to hear that.
Tough pill to swallow. 1992, I was only 2 years old. I don't know if Deven was even that old, maybe a little older, a little younger. But, he was one of six to stand up for us then and said that he did not want Congress to step in, and he wanted to give the railroads, the railroad industry, the right to do and make their own deal. 30 years later, I understand that's a long time, but 30 years later, he's in a much better spot to show us that he's Union Joe. And I think betrayal may be a little heavy, but there was a lot of people who were disappointed, and you know how this played out over the course of the last few days.
Yeah. I mean, we've emphasized over and over again, you guys just did as well, that if he was going to intervene, he could have just said, hey, listen, I'm ruling here. I'm the president. I can sign a bill or I can veto a bill. Bill comes to my desk without sick leave. It's getting vetoed. Right there. That done. Because no one wants a strike. No one can deal with a strike. And the goal is not to strike. As you said, Adam, our goal is not to strike. Our goal is to get the sick leave. That's what we want. We want to be able to take a day off when we're sick or when our kid is sick and not have it hurt us in the wallet. And most people are just astonished. I mean, I was astonished that you guys didn't already have this. That's why I was taken aback when you talked about the paid expenses on the road, because that's another thing that I just assumed you guys would already have.
Well, look,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the railroads, one of their excuses for not wanting to give us paid sick leave was because their workforce is down so much right now. And so they're not going to have enough people work on the tracks if their workforce or if people are sick. And I'm like, you can hire people. I wish I did the hiring. We would be fully staffed, I promise you, but I don't do it. They don't, it's frustrating.
Well, I just heard this today that since 1980, the workforce is down by half, from 400,000 to 200,000 total. So you're basically running the nation's railroads on a skeleton crew.
Well, we're at like 115,000 railroad workers right now, and over the past 10 years, I believe, maybe even less than that, we're down 30% of our workforce.
Wow.
I mean, why do you think that is? Because it seems to me like there's this like rotation of circumstances where, okay, they're cutting costs, which is causing their profits to go up because they made $27 billion last year. They don't want to give sick leave to the workers they have because A, they want to keep their margins as high as possible, even though this would cut into them very, very little. And B, they don't want to hire more people, and they're using the lack of sick leave. I mean, they're using the lack of employees to workers rather. They're using that to justify not giving the sick leave. And then they're also justifying the lack of sick leave by saying we don't have enough people. Meanwhile, their margins keep growing. So just like put all those facts in your brain, and you realize that this is really just about these railroad bosses maximizing profits and not giving an inch because they realize they don't have to, right? Because it just once you just can't put all of those facts into your head and come to any other conclusion, I would think. I mean, what gives here?
Well, it's definitely a quality of life issue. Why we're losing so many workers. And like Deven says, like both of you have alluded to, we're losing workers. We're not losing the work. We're not losing the trains. Quarter after quarter, year after year, they're still pumping out their work. They're doing better than they ever have. We're just doing it with skeleton crews. You go to working at 100%. Within my company, there's nowhere where you can. They're at 100% man capacity, and for them to come out, and the term they like to use is Luddites. If they just think they can plug and play anybody and that we're all interchangeable and we're unskilled workers, how can I miss a day of work? How can I not be replaced? If you can replace me with the guy at the dock, or you can replace me with the person at the cashier, well, then why can't I take a day off when I'm sick? It's just not the case. There's a lot of people out here, myself included, that aren't college educated, didn't go to a trade school, but I've been working in the position I've been working in for 10 plus years. And you can't just replace these people. You're running heavy equipment, and everywhere you go is different. Over the course of 10 years, over the course of 10 months, people learn a certain set of skills that don't necessarily translate to anywhere else other than the railroad industry. So when Deven says that, you're trying to get a day off, they like to think as we're replaceable. But when you go to, need time off, they have nobody to replace you. How's that work? How's that add up?
Right. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, part of the reason why the workforce has probably shrunk, as you just said, Adam, is it's got to be a quality of life issue. Well, if you don't have paid sick leave and you don't have, paid expenses on the road, and you're not getting paid as much as you should, that depresses the workforce numbers. But that also increases their profits and forces them, in their minds at least, to treat the workers that they do have worse. And so this just seems like a rubber band that's being stretched on both sides. And at some point, it has to break. It's not sustainable. How can it be?
Yeah, I mean, really, this sounds like, and some people are speculating on this. Okay, well, if you're not going to let people strike for better conditions, you're going to have a lot of people quit. And if it's that short-staffed, how are they going to keep it running?
Right.
And if it's so important to the nation's economy to keep these railroads running, this is extremely short-sighted to lean on the workers this way on sick leave, because so what happens if they lose? Even with that, if they quit, even without a strike, you're going to wind up having the consequences you would have had of a strike, where these railroads can't run because too many people won't do the job.
That's exactly right. Actually, I brought that same kind of point up is the reduction that they've had in the last 7 years. If that happened overnight, we call it the precision scheduled railroading. If that happened overnight, that would have shut down the economy because of the suppliers, the shippers. They're all pissed at the railroads, and that's been seen over and over. But they're bad. They have horrible service. They have the worst service they've ever had, but their profits are higher than they've ever been. That's mind blowing. And every time I say that, it boggles my mind. And if you don't pay attention to what's going on, you wouldn't know that. But this supply chain is extremely important. It's extremely fragile. And if we're just blaming everything on COVID, that's the wrong way to look at it. We need to look at actually what's going on. The railroads are a huge piece of what's happening right now with inflation and the supply chain issues. That's 100% sure.
All right, well, we're going to wrap in just a moment, but I want to give you guys the last word. Where do you stand now? What's next? And how can people get involved? At the very least, if they can't help you directly, which hopefully they can, but how do they become more aware of what's going on? Where can they stay in touch with you guys?
Adam, you go ahead and go first.
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing to just put a bow on it, and I've seen a lot of different people, online, or you read a lot of different people say that, the railroad workers, were essentially holding the United States hostage, during the holidays. And I cannot reject that strongly enough. That is not the case. If you just reach out to somebody in your town or a friend of a friend or a relative, and they actually work on these production gangs or work within the railroad industry, they really know what's going on out here. And I just think the verbiage that we like to use, and I'll just give you one more example too, that you've been hearing a lot, over the course of the last couple of weeks and months. It was voted down. It was voted for the tentative agreement, 8 of the railroad unions and then 4 against, but the majority was in the 4. So you hear,
interesting.
Exactly. You hear 8-4, and that's an excellent talking point. Hey, 8-4, these four are backing themselves in the corner, 24% raise. They already make $126,000 a year. What more do they want? Well, when you realize the four are the majority, well, then it changes the tune on the conversation.
You mean the amount of people who
Correct.
voted in those 4 no votes
Yes,
outnumber the people who voted yes?
Absolutely.
In the 8 other unions.
Yes, in the 8. And a lot of people don't know that. And I think even today, there's a lot of people speaking on that who assume, it's 8-4, when in reality, it's about 55-45 or closer to 50-50, with the majority being the 4 crafts that actually voted no to the tentative agreement. But, if you're going to speak on the matter, just make sure you know what you're talking about. Make sure you be well read. Definitely today, the last couple days, you can look anywhere for the information and get it. And a lot of people out there like me and Deven, easy to get in contact to. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys. Our leadership does a great job of getting out there, being on the hill down there and just having open conversations. And I just think over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours, there was a lot of people that we thought weren't going to be on our side or in our favor. And even though the votes turned out the way they did, I just think it opened up a lot of people's eyes on what we actually go through day to day.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, there are some people that helped us out in the background that never take credit for anything. Labor Notes, some great people over there who have done some great work helping us out. The staffers, like I said, in these congressional offices have helped us out. There's a lot of labor organizations that do want to do this work and help people out. And, anybody who's watching this and wants to organize a union, absolutely reach out to these people. As you were talking about, Russell, before about the Starbucks workers. And this is an extraordinary time, but, labor needs to start winning. And we may not have won fully today, but we put up a damn good fight, and we're not going away. We're going to keep this pressure on. There's still going to be issues going on with the railroads here in the next few years. Like, this cannot be fixed overnight, and it won't be fixed overnight just because this contract's done. So stay tuned.
All right. Well, I hope you guys are both comforted and emboldened by the fact that the people are really with you, as Adam, you were talking about. Despite all the media noise and stuff, the people are with you. What you guys are saying makes perfect common sense to 99% of people. And whatever obstacle you have in terms of public sentiment is just because the people don't know that they're with you yet. But anybody who hears this stuff is on your side. I have no doubt about that. I mean, there's always going to be the fringe, 1% of whack jobs. But look, people have common sense. Most people have common sense. That's why it's called common sense. And so we are on your side. We are with you guys, and we wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for making the time for us this evening.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thanks, Keaton. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you, fellas.
Please clap.